Hello. How are you? Good, good. I'm so excited to see you. Given the weather we have, it's always beautiful to see people showing up at a time like this. And I also know that you could be elsewhere, but you chose to be here with us, and that's exciting. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. And just before I introduce today's readers, I will mention that join us again on November 6th. It will be our last Poetrio reading of the year. We will be here. And this evening, I have the pleasure of introducing three wonderful poets who have traveled from different places. And because I get a chance to read their work, I always like to say a few words about their books. And so I'm going to begin with Todd Boss, who is the author of Someday, The Plan of a House, and their books are here with us. Someday, The Plan of a House contends with what we carry or leave behind and how travel enchants us. Not because every place is more attractive than the place you've left behind, but because you've left behind more than a place. In this book, we have more than poems. There's music that turns an ordinary moment into an airy sanctuary. There's love and compassion for the daughter who reminds the speaker of his own daughter, and the knowledge of a domestic life lived before walks with the poet in the public spaces and merges with new smells and tastes in the air. Grief, it turns out, can't be separated from how to live anew. Be glad then to find the finest hidden underneath a well-placed scar. When it comes to the essentials, Todd gives us more as a result of spending time with less. Someday, The Plan of a Town is Todd's fourth poetry collection published by Norton, as well as his three previous books, Yellowrocket, Peach, and Tough Luck. His first children's book, The Boy Who Said Wow, is due in 2023 from Simon and Schuster's Beachland imprint. Todd's poems have appeared in the New Yorker, American Poetry Review, Poetry, and NPR. His lyrics have been performed at Kennedy Center and Carnegie Hall. His work has been recognized with Grammy nominations by the National Book Foundation. He is the founding artistic director of Motionpoems, a production company that's turned more than 150 poems into short films. Without further delay, let's have Todd Boss.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Mildred. It's a pleasure to be here. It's such a wonderful bookstore, and I love Asheville. It's great to be back out this way. I thought I'd open with the first poem in the collection. It's called Where You've Been. The trouble with telling people where you've been is that then they start telling you where they've been and making it sound like you haven't been anywhere until you've been where they've been. And before you can tell them that where you've been is every bit as interesting as where they've been, they're explaining how to get to where they've been, even though you don't intend to go. And by then, where you've been's been lost around the bend, and you know they know, though nobody says so, that no one's going to be going there again. I want to give you the title poem from the collection, which is the next poem in it. Someday, The Plan of a Town. And it was written in Andalusia, Spain, in a little town called Tarifa. I'll never forget the little apartment. It looked out over the street, and I wrote this there. It's about the search for home. So it really goes out to all the folks who might be homeless or looking for home or searching for something special in their lives. Someday, the plan of a town, right down to its side tracks and back alleyways, will match, or so goes the dream, with some identical patch of neural network your rogue thoughts roam in. Overlay it like those musculoskeletal transparencies with which anatomy textbooks come bound. And you'll be at home in its dog-like joint work of cobbled kinks, and your body will resound at every fork, tuning fork-like. And every road you ever rambled will be re-scrambled to appear to have brought you here, where you fit so perfectly, where you can practically predict where to find every bench or postbox, and where you can cue every little old lady who leaves her flat to buy bread, as if she were locking up a little room in your head and trading your idea of money for your idea of food before returning to wipe her shoes on the mat your mind's laid flat, and fit her flat key to its shoulder into the striped plate keyhole through which you daily romance her as she grows older. That worn, dome-topped slot that looks as if two question marks met on the road to kiss and mate and make one question, opening, opening, each forever the other's only answer. Mildred mentioned my daughter, and so I thought I'd give you a little grief poem. This is a poem that occurred to me in Budapest. I've been a nomad 30 years, or I mean 4 years, sorry. And it started with 30 house sits. I did 30 house sits in a row all around the world. One of them was in Budapest, and it's shaped kind of funny on the page. It sort of drops down in triplets because I wrote it, it's calling on the funicular that goes from the river on a rail up the side of the bank above the Danube. It's called At the Sofitel. My daughter and I have been estranged for 6 years when I wrote this poem, 5 or 6 years. So this is about that. At the Sofitel in Budapest, alone, regretting leaving, estranged from my daughter 6 years almost, believing it might be 6 and 6 more before she texts or answers when I call, trying to remember how it all began. I find that I can. Every ball thrown at her, every tear, every tatter, very matter-of-factly now, I can recall exactly. Even so, I saw her at the funicular today in her old winter downs, 12 years younger, chattering away. I reached to help her up before I became aware she had her own father there, clutching his past. And we rose while I fell, the tall Sofitel and the Danube gliding away outside glass. Sophie, tell your story. Say you're sorry or not sorry. Sophie, tell of life, your studies, your plans. From Sofitel to Sofitel I go. It's a mockery. Soundproof doors closing behind me as if a quiet so bad could be improved. Sophie, tell Dad how much longer you plan to be the stronger one, unmoving, unmovable, unmoved. Let's see, I probably only have enough time for 1 or 2 more. So let's see, where do I go from there? This is a poem about the earth. Also, there are women appearing throughout the book. My daughter, the little old lady who appears in that earlier poem with her key coming home to her flat in your mind. And this one about Mother Earth. This actually proved to be the inspiration for a symphony that I wrote with a composer pal of mine that was performed last year in Tucson. And the recording just yesterday, we learned won a regional Emmy for Best Composition. Isn't that exciting? This is just the inspiration for that piece. It's a very different text, that one. You can find it online now, just as of this morning it was posted. This is the same concept. She's going to be beautiful. She's going to be beautiful as she goes, isn't she? Gorgeous plumes of cinder, blooming rose in dying light. She's going to give us stunning show. The melting ice, the slow decay of zones. Our drones will play it all in full HD and lavish insult on the injury. All the satellite imagery, the National Geo photography. She's going to be calendar-worthy stuff, if ever again a calendar there be. Like forcing someone to disrobe and wishing you don't want to watch. The moon will touch her everywhere goodbye. An elephant, the last, inelegantly, will pass in a savanna gleaming gold. The cloud formations no one's ever seen, in towers shimmering with ash, we will no longer wonder to behold. All the coastal cities under sea. She will be beautiful, of course she will, and devastatingly. Oh, but they're not all that sad. And it's not all about grief, is it? Let's see. I'll leave you with something happy. This is kind of a fun poem. I'll try to read it quickly. I've got 4 minutes left. It's called An Ocean for Iowa. I was in Iowa recently. Well, I guess it was years ago, and but I lived in Minnesota for 25 years, so I used to go there quite often. And I used to kind of despair driving through Iowa at the, just the empty expanses of cornfields and how flat and sort of unhappy people looked. And I don't know, I just sort of felt sorry for Iowa. So I thought I'd give them an ocean. I don't know why. Oh, why not though? Don't Iowans deserve an ocean the same as Rhode Islanders or New Zealanders do? We'll make it a little one if we have to, like the Indian. We can add it like pork to a bill. We'll call it the Iowan Ocean. The Missouri will fill it, and we won't displace anyone. No farms will be harmed in the pouring of this ocean. We'll simply make a little room in Pottawatomie or Union County between formerly neighboring towns like Anita and Atlantic, Manning and Manila, or Dunlap and Defiance. I'm thinking mostly of southwestern Iowa, because then Kansans and Nebraskans can come for the afternoon and still get home in time for church supper or choir, smelling for a change of salt air, their hair and clothes blown loose by the winds off the rich black sand Iowan coast. It'll mean big changes for the economy. Some farmers will become lobstermen, and who could blame them? Some, perhaps the quieter among them, will become seafaring men, while others, going down to its shores, between shores, will bring home again strings of deliciously white-fleshed, ocean-fresh poems. And the women, let's not forget the women. They're going to adore the ocean. It will inspire them to do more lovemaking. And if there's anything Iowa needs, God knows it's more lovemaking. I want Iowan women, when they're sick of looking at corn on every horizon, battalions of corn frozen in formation, to be able to climb into the seats of their husband's stick-shift Silverados and drive all 45 dirt miles of County Road H54 out of Corning past Gravity, or east on State Highway 30 through Glidden, Ralston, Scranton, Jefferson, Grand Junction, Ogden, and Jordan, and come at last. Sorry, I just thought that was me. I'm just grateful it's not me. Check your phones. Alley Cat Social Club drives by. Is that the beer bus?
No, that's one of the many loud buses that go through downtown Asheville. So that's how the folks at home know we're really in the store.
Really in the store?
Yeah.
The Alley Cat just drove by. Oh, let's see, where was I? Right in the middle of a big long sentence. and come at last to a dust cloud stop there where the cornfields end on the bluffs overlooking the Cape of Des Moines or Omaha Bay, and rest their misted, soft, trusting Delft eyes a while on the lapped, white-capped quilt work of the Iowan ocean, and then go home to their husbands, standing in the lamplight in their night cottons, tumbling humble sonnets in their heads, and strip them like beds. Oh, sure, they'll come in. There will be some in corner bars here or there whose stubborn German pride will rear at the mere suggestion. We don't need no stinking ocean, they'll rail into their fears. We're Iowans, not Californians. California's got an ocean, what good's it done them? And they'll have a point. The ocean's largely wasted on Californians, also New Yorkers and Floridians. No, an ocean's a prize uniquely commensurate with being Iowan, for plying the sea of tall grass and glass cabined crafts, staring deep into green, for a lifetime's attention to the singular homely flowering and fruiting of the lowly soybean, for shameless ministration to the nameless and unseen, we hereby christen this ocean the Iowan Ocean, 8th biggest water mass on earth. May it bring joy on an order of magnitude equivalent to the sea of corn sweetener her refineries pour into the food and drink factories of the world. May it scrub the stench from every hog barn, dilute the pollutants, soften every stubbornness, ungovern every caucus, create raucous new markets for surf and scuba gear, for beer and more beer, chasing lots of iced corn whiskey shots from glasses rimmed with salt and trimmed with paper parasols. May every taper dance dizzier in every holder. May a new spirit move upon the face of the waters and wash across the wheat fields, filling with a newfound joy every sower, crop duster, and reaper. And may the sky, bluer than the blue from any prism, fill them with a truly non-denominational new evangelism, truer than any truism, and worlds deeper. Thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you so much, Todd. That was delightful. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Zoë Fay-Stindt, and her book, Bad Body, is right in front of you. Bad Body speaks of the tenderness needed to nurse the dying back to life, what the body holds and gives while revisiting sites of trauma. In unpacking the repetitive nature of grief, Zoë surprises us with fantastical constructions of a healing body, finding life, a bed, a soft place to land, if not in a stranger's lap, then in the community act that resides in the body of these poems. There's hunger, there's wanting, and a heron that must be fed as it tends to the speaker's wound and is transformed into a new mythology. Bad Body is a winner of Cordella Press inaugural Gwendolyn Brooks Poetry Prize. Zoë is a queer bicontinental poet with roots in both the French and American South. Their work has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize, featured or forthcoming in Southern Humanities, Ninth Letter, and elsewhere. Zoë is an MFA candidate at Iowa State University and community farm volunteer. You're very welcome.
Such a lovely intro, Mildred. Thank you. Can you guys hear me in the back? Yeah? Okay. Let me get my timer going. I'm Zoë. Hi, good to see all your faces. Today is a really special night for me for many reasons. The first thing that I'm visiting my dad this weekend, and today is his birthday. So happy birthday, Dad. And the second reason it's really meaningful to me is that I have been in this bookstore since I was pre-verbal, and Emeka held me in her arms as a tiny baby. And so it's kind of wild to be reading from this book today. And this is actually the first time I'm reading from this hard copy bird body book. So yeah, I will kick us off. This chapbook wrangles with kind of a 10-year recovery process from sexual assault, and kind of what that looks like in the body, how to language it, how to move forward, knowing that recovery is kind of an always moving and shaping thing. And so I make a point to kind of orbit that violence without giving it too much room on the page. But I will say that if you need a moment at any point to step away, feel free. Yeah, and as Mildred really lovingly said, there's a heron in here that's kind of guiding me throughout the way, and many birds to kind of make sense of this this trauma in a surrealist space. This is our heron. Mornings, she doctors me with that gray beak, picks out the growing lumps from my breast's hot pulp and tosses them in the river. Minnows feast. She fills in the dents around my nipple, nudges the plastic curve of my scylla, settles its thin bones so it sits right, my uterus still, womb empty. She's done this already. Mom's cancer dug out, the cracks in her vertebrae filled with Tar River water and mud, a cob to build her strong again. When the sun goes, the heron cuts through rising fog, spears herself a sunfish. She brings back a banquet, lays out clams and blue crab for us. She piles driftwood, lights a fire. We wet our fingers in the meat. The second one is after Patricia Lockwood for her poem, Rape Joke. And this is called The Body is a Capacity. Though the blood is always so close to the surface, there was none. No bite, no tussle, no writhe. The body will not choke out its predator. My 18-year-old arms lay complacently down, hands at my pooled thighs, which even for him, I wished looked less like lakes. I've been training for a lifetime. My body knows the drill. It won't yell. Instead, offer a bargain. Not tonight. Or I promise I'll make it better next time. Or I owe you one. The joke is that it wasn't even that bad. That even though I tried over and over to pry no between my body and his like a car jack, nothing really hurt. Nothing cut into me. The joke is that I'll ask myself for years if I can claim the word others hold above their heads like a flag, or tuck between gum and lip, gone bad snuff, molding. That I will try to find other words, try prefacing it with date or softening its letters, assault, the double S letting it slip and curl, a piece of silk wrinkling to the floor. No, the joke is that I opened my own unbloodied self, that I released easily. My body, series of openings, inviting a neighbor in. I didn't say it. I didn't say it to the blackberry smeared in my fingers. I didn't say it to the blue stem, not the dogwood, the laurel, the hyacinth, pushing her pink and splintered head out. I didn't know, stomach of stomachs, ache of aches, what part had cracked and where. I let it hunt, feasting, let it break its stained paws through the marsh of me. When they found me, story splintered by memory, they bent me gently back into myself, humming the law and its break into daylight. Even then, I kept my mouth pretty, let it seal dried tree sap where he had pressed his tongue to it. As I kind of mentioned in the beginning, this chapbook thinks through the ways that recovery is kind of always shifting and kind of troubles that idea of healing and arriving at any one place. And this poem is a poem about the way that trauma can surprise us in the moments that it comes up. And this is also for my mom, who I think is in the audience, somewhere in that stratosphere over there. Everybody's looking to one space. Yes, my mom is in the computer physically. This is called After Emailing Your Mom, another poem about it. She says she's surprised it still haunts you, brushing the needles from your hair. Says, I'm hard and wish to hell I weren't. You wonder what to write back, how to explain the hostage your nervous system has trained, how the trauma lives quietly for months, careful not to tip anything over inside you until you find yourself on a date in your own car, a man's arms wrapped around you in fervor, and you have gone slack, silver grass, limp with first frost, your voice blued in its tunnel. You're sure you were in control, but your body, now bowed into a ball in the driver's seat, didn't get the signal. Everyone wants you to stop writing about it, this unkillable thing. Enough, enough. You have been loved. Yes, you are fortunate. Don't harden yourself, baby, your mom writes back. She pulls the splinters from your teeth. Stay open. That's it now. That's it now. It's a gruesome way of expanding, isn't it? You've been counting the ways brutes break in or slash their way to the door. Lie here. Earthworms network cities beneath you. The composting process promising natural wonder. You've done enough. Let your teeth out, their little aches, the soft spots where they've weakened or grown sideways, pushing into their brothers. Don't chastise the not biting. Feel the air in your mouth and hold your head with your one dutiful, soft hand. Though they will try to convince you there is no release, no renewal or final exhaustive deliverance from the most intolerable chasm you've crawled through. Even when she widens, the river throws herself into the sea. Each day, the mourning dove sings her same song. Don't pity her. She has been weaving invocations, singing laments, and opening her eyes every morning, though sometimes trembling her branch, and sometimes, if you get too close or move too quickly, erupting into flight. She bursts again and again. But recovery was always a ripped mythology. She holds her tremor and her great loud voice in the same body. I have my little sticky notes for where I'm supposed to go next. Thank you, sticky notes. Okay, I have 2 poems left. We'll come back to the heron for a moment. And I think, as Todd mentioned, it's not all grief, and I'm gonna change the last poem I was gonna read to bring up part of what Mildred mentioned with some stranger delight. So this is Her Beak Inside Me. Her beak inside me. While the heron works on me, I sleep, dreaming of a fire struck in my gut, a coiled army of ants caught in some dark recess of my throat. She takes every bone out to boil, drying them on the bank. I worry she'll mistake a bent piece of driftwood for my clavicle, subbing in a crab's abandoned shell where the parietal bone should fit. Others gather while she works. Red squirrels pick at felled pecans. The street beagles pant uneasily. My mother's in the house washing pots over and over, something she can't rub clean sticking to their sides. A sparrow has just flown into his reflection, now stumbling nauseously around our rotting porch. In that house as old as us, things are splintering. Mom flicks tree frogs off the window screen, a frog for each fracture. Her brother's ailing body, like her father's sickness roiling inside her, flick each lost friend clicking offline, flick, flick, flick. Underneath the window, the dog collects their bodies from the grass, drops them from his gentle maw onto beds of magnolia sheddings, the wide, glossy leaves, the wilted petals, their tough seeds. Each pale belly still thumping, greens starting to dull. I wait for the shore to reappear, for the tide to go out, for the heron to pull her long mouth out. When she's finished, she'll sew me up with willow thread, send me to the water. I'll pull the clams up by their knife tops, try to boil them clean. The water cloudy with river mud, stinking of swamp. Okay, last one. Thank you again to Malaprop, to Emeka, to Mildred, to Stephanie. This is a really regenerative space to have and to hold, and this is kind of one of the ways that we can restore our souls, so thank you for carving this space out. Okay, sharing the table. Stranger, I'd like to put my head in your lap. I don't often write like this, exclaiming, proclaiming, full of happy little pies. Our table neighbors wave down their friends with bright, sweaty faces. Yes, ours. We've protected each other's computers, our loose change and tacos, and now we've built this small little land here under the oaks with our salsa warming the flies' bellies. You keep the grackles out of my watery cold brew. What love. I let my floral top slink off my shoulders. Let the sun, who has already burned me, warm my skin like I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose. I'll stretch out my long, too pale legs and let them sprawl along the skinny picnic table planks. Let my face get pink. Let the live oak drop, her molting all over me. I watch a bird beyond the fence tear into the little garden snake he's caught, limp curl in his mouth. You turn and pick a leaf out of my tangled hair. See? You're already taking care of me. Let me lean into you like the roads bend, trusting its body. Let it be a hot head of hair warming your thigh, a strange and surprising love, unkempt. Like the napkins flying in the wind and nobody running after them. Let nobody run after them. Just this once, let them press themselves into the tree bark, begging, ruining themselves in the light. Thank you.
Absolutely. That was powerful. And now I will introduce the last poet, Rochelle Hurt, the J Girls, sorry. I feel like adding another J to the J Girls. The J Girls blend genre as a performance of theatrical poems and shows us what a reality poetry show would look like on stage. The characters in the poems perform their identities and cross into each other's spaces while negotiating sexuality and notions of gender. Whether the audience applauds or is mortified, the J Girls are determined to go high in their acts and shine like shooting stars. The J Girls won the Blue Light Books Prize from Indiana Review. Rochelle's second book, in which I play, The Runaway, won the Barrow Street Poetry Prize, and The Rusted City, a novel in poems, is published by White Pine Press. Her work has been included in Poetry Magazine and the Best New Poets anthology. She's been awarded prizes and fellowships from Arts and Letters, Poetry International, Vermont Studio Center, and elsewhere. She lives in Orlando and teaches in the MFA program at the University of Central Florida. Rochelle, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mildred. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you, everyone, to be here today. And it was amazing to hear Todd and Zoe read. So I'm going to close the reading out with the J Girls. Mildred gave you some really good background on this book, and I'm just going to add a couple of things. The poems are in the voices of 5 teenage girls who decide in the 90s, when they're growing up, to make a reality show about themselves. And so each poem is a monologue or a mock interview or commercial that these girls have home recorded. So they're performative and loud and intentionally kind of scandalous. That said, I guess I'll offer a few. I'm not reading any of the trauma-heavy poems today, but I'll offer a few content warnings that things like sexual assault and drug use are referenced in these poems. They're called the J Girls because all of their names start with J. When I was growing up in the 90s, it seemed like everyone's name started with J. So they are Jocelyn, Jody, Jennifer, Jackie, and Joelle. Each poem also comes with a little scene description because they are sort of written for the page and the stage. The scene description for this first one features Jocelyn in a school cafeteria. The cafeteria is empty. She's wearing a red tube top and a silver miniskirt, and there are posters hanging on the wall behind her. Reduce, reuse, recycle, the hang in there kitten, and a diagram of a cartoon girl that illustrates proper skirt length and notes, all hair colors must come directly from God. And that is a quote from my high school handbook. It was a Catholic school. Right, so this one's called, so a lot of these poems are sort of reactions to Catholic schooling and things that call for modesty. This one's called Less is More. We fast through lunch and pocket pills at recess. Gold letters on our gym class asses crown us each a princess. School nuns scold, so we dig little graves in our minds and they fill them with etiquette. Bet they'll better us yet. In church, our voices rise, a sour choir of spit and pride. We stir the nuns' words in our mouths till they curdle. Less is more. At home, our mean mothers pour swab into Avon bottles, stacking dimes as we lie like strips of jerky on our roofs. We tan, we turn, we cure ourselves and wonder how far down our throats can these new woman hands go. Together, we trace rows of looping red X's and O's into our arms with paring knives. We carve our skin to the bone, becoming instruments of less. But we make it up in excess. Rhinestone eyelids, 2-inch acrylics, hair frosted in 3 tones. Each hotbox ride with garage boys is a fantasy of proving the nuns right. We see the road stop like a cartoon cliff and we're driving on air till someone looks down and we drop, and that's all we've wanted. To hell with other kids' futures, our parents tired, rising above. A new high, the long whistle of wind like a lullaby against the slicked reeds of these whittled bodies as we fall glittering to the bottom. I've got my tabs kind of stupidly at the top of the book instead of the sides. I was studying for an exam. So this is a monologue from Jackie, who is in a bedroom. She's got a microphone stand in front of her. You can see the closet behind her. She's wearing a hot pink wig and matching pink sneakers. And this one is an ode on upspeak. If you don't know, upspeak is a way of speaking where you end all your sentences as if they're questions, going up at the end. And it's a way of speaking that teenage girls and young women use a lot because that's sort of how a lot of women and girls have just learned to communicate. And they've learned to communicate that way because of the ways in which we're told to be kind of uncertain and submissive as women and girls. And yet then there was a lot of criticism of upspeak for a while on the radio, where people were complaining about all these women and girls using their annoying upspeak. So all that's in here. This is Ode on My Upspeak. I admire its belligerent uncertainty. I'll know if I know when I please. Pointed indecision as auto prick that sticks my sentence tip. When my tongue spring toes into a run, I vault across silences, sucking this tick like perpetual mint, surprised but satisfied. I want all my action rising, okay? While we're at it, I dig my ums, impervious little monks who squat in well-spaced rows, their insistent vibrato a hypno chant that spins my speech to incantation. I love how they punctuate, bead-like, my vocal fry. That holy string to which I cling. Its creak makes me speak like a crumb scraper savoring the linen tablecloth. I lick the conversation down and shake each glottal rattle at the sky, my diphthong kernels popping in a thrum that sets me singing like an optimist. I've got nowhere to go but up. Two of the girls in the book are close friends, and they have sort of an ambiguous relationship where they're friends and then there maybe is something romantic going on, then they kind of pull back because of internalized homophobia. It was the 90s. So this is from one of the girls, Joelle, to Jocelyn, and they're sitting in a backyard together in the grass. This is called Thigh High. A contact buzz, muscular twitch beyond the suede itch of looking at a constellation of blue veins under ice. Sometimes desire says, break it. So I lay a hand on you with a laugh, with a girl I know. Your tiny hairs catch like breaths on my finger grooves. Razor burn blooms like specks of fire and spreads through goosebumps, little triggers. I want to test you. You let me press your ink and citrus bruises, and it's nearly enough. I phantom grip your stretch marks like electric currents between my teeth at night. Desire is a far cry from the men's palms that cup our thighs without asking. Touch as a collar to say mine. Once, two boys flanked us while walking, asking each other whether they liked our legs better, jiggling or still. We both giggled, but I thought, what do they know about gravity? The sky bowed behind you all afternoon, waiting for permission. Girl, you are a hall of mirrors falling on me. You are the end of looking. I crush my eyes to crumbs and you dizzy them to the ground, the softest shattering. It's a real thing that actually happened to me as a tween. Boys talking about our bodies as they stood beside us. And that's something else that comes up in the book a lot, is navigating being looked at in a sexual way, and both embracing that, because when you're a teenager, you're just starting to learn that that has power, but then you're also encountering a lot of danger and trauma along the way. So the book is sort of has a love-hate relationship with being looked at. So this is a monologue from Jennifer, who all of her poems are either prayers or like fragmented soap operas. This one's a prayer. So she's sitting in a church. There's a marble altar behind her and a crucifix, and she's holding a bag of communion hosts and just kind of like eating from it. I don't know if anyone here was an altar person, but did stuff like that. Prayer for effacement. Oh, my fear snuffer, my sensitive sigh huffer, my infernal grace breather, my sin sucker, my most holy vampire, my tawdry tear drinker, my gory grief strainer, my pulpy vice eater, my dull mind cleaver, my gentle heart surgeon, my acid bath, my quick drying lime wash, my most patient primer, my meticulous airbrush, my aerial light box, my traveling sunspot, my beautiful cataract, my personal snow machine, my salt and plow, my spongy ink blotter, my stack of saris, my emergency stain stick, my cup of bleach, my benevolent eraser. Make me an eternal thumbprint, your most stubborn spot of grease. Just got two more. This one comes at the end of the book after the two girls I mentioned earlier, Joelle and Jocelyn, have had a series of kind of back and forths, and they're now somewhat estranged. So this is Jocelyn speaking back to Joelle, and they are in a McDonald's. They're sitting in a booth, and then periodically, I won't read these, but on the page, they're like interrupted by the cashier calling out order numbers and things like that. It's a little chaotic. This is called McDonald's Forever. Forever. I want to wade there with you on a snow day, wheeze-winded and teary. I want to smash the ice in your lashes, then let the oily steam breathe us back to running blood. Or I want to walk there in crop tops we'll swap in the lime fluorescence of the slime-tiled John so we can walk home as one another. I want to wooze in your menthol cherry aura as we find every flickering arch in the city. Delicate liquor of grease-dipped French tips, send me a Rite Aid Valentine that says, be my bitch, and I'll be yours. No takebacks, no beef, no joke, no jinx. When I answered that trick crush question with you. You who then flipped and tramped the whole year solo. But I swear on your stuck-up spine, we can walk it all back with Big Macs and 1,000 half-hug pats. Please, let's just meet on the mouth of a straw, suck it up, crush only our cups, and let the years drip down the sewer slats as we walk back and back and back. And this is the last one I'm going to read. As I mentioned, the girls sort of learn what it means to be a woman in terms of danger and safety and being looked at. And after that, they kind of band together and there are more poems in the collective voice. So this is one of the poems in the collective voice that is actually a burlesque. So they are in one of those above ground vinyl pools, those really tiny ones, and they're making a whirlpool as they're performing this and periodically like removing pieces of clothing. This is called pluralizing. We blow cash on toe rings and studded spandex, then go all pennies in on who's first to leave the water undressed. Or better yet, who's wet and naked longest. Watch. Under pink sky thunder, we pander to a stand of jeans and tall boy cans. 6 packed into the tiny vinyl pool, we're nothing if not a fashion set, weaving knees and elbows in a cat's cradle of regrets. Oh, audience. Don't think we can't hear the storm coughing our names through the streets as window women shut their eyes to us. Don't assume we can't see from here how many selves we'll have to synchronize in making sense of nights like this, our love of leering men. Poor is an easy place to sink, trashy too, but surfacing alone is a risk not one of us is taking, not one and not none. When lightning scatters itself on the skin of the water, we crystallize with laughter. Our bodies' fractal tugs of longing split the clouds. We rip the light and wrap our hips in it. We sieve the sky into our lips. We tilt the kaleidoscope eye of sex so you can see it. Girl as gift, but in plural, we're a performance. Girls, girls, girls. Lit now, translucent men call from the deck. Crazy sluts. So we slip their words over our head and climb out cloaked in their dazzling fear of us. We shiver and drip and glisten and pull the ladder up. Thank you.
And thank you so much, everybody. So let's clap for our poets, all the three, Todd Boss, Zoë Fay-Stindt, and Rochelle Hurt. we have more than single copies. This is not all. So make sure before you leave, you get your copies, and the poets are here to autograph for you and be with us next Sunday, the first Sunday of November, which will be November 6th. And that will be our last poetry reading of the year. And then we will continue in the new year. So keep coming, keep buying the books, keep supporting the poets and supporting Malaprops. Thank you so much. Thank you.